Maybe too short.
Yeah, I think that's too short.
Oh, trimming the wick.
Welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. My name is Cindy Lugu, and I'll be your facilitator this morning. We are a spiritual community, philosophically based on existentialist and feminist principles dedicated to human liberation. We make our spiritual home in the Old Stone Church, which was hand-built by the African American Antioch East Baptist Church. We acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African Americans from the area, and we honor them and the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muskogee Creek people were driven from this land, and we support justice for all Indigenous people. Our title today is The Left Side of the Mountain, Progressivism in Appalachia. I'm going to try really hard saying that word, and I'm sure I'll pronounce it a little different every time. But in that spirit, I have picked quotes to deal with the Appalachian culture. Appalachian people are considered a separate culture, made up of many unique backgrounds. Native Americans, Irish, English and Scotch, and then a third descendants of German and Polish immigrants, all blended together across the region. The mountains also figure into the uniqueness of Appalachia. The mountains kept Appalachia isolated from the rest of the country and from the influence of other peoples. Let's sing the first song, which is number 36, Once to Everyone and Nation. Please stand as you are willing and able, and our accompanist is Kathy McGuire. Is my distance from the mic good?
What's the number, page number
36.
Well, 36 and 37. 136.
No, just 36. In the pink book. All the songs today will be in the pink book.
Are you ready? And so I said, I've got some, in honor of the topic, I've got some instruments that I thought would be appropriate, so I hope you enjoy them.
Everyone and nation comes rolling to the tide. In the strife of truth with falsehood for a
Are there any newcomers today, or people who haven't been around in a while who'd like to stand and introduce themselves? Say how they came to be here today? All right, well, we'll move right along. Any birthdays or anniversaries today? This week? This month that they want to get in while they can? Come on, Nancy.
It's not my birthday, but tomorrow is the birthday of my daughter who died at 7 weeks, 63 years ago. And so she's not forgotten.
Would you like to sing to her?
No,
Okay, we'll just remember
just
her.
remember her.
Okay. Any others? Well, then I'll read some Appalachian sayings to get us in the mood. I got some good ones. Some you may have heard, some you might not have, but they're homey. That dog won't hunt. If that don't make your wood burn, nothing will. Your milk of human kindness has turned to Bonnie Clabber. She threw more out the back door than her man could tote in the front. As poor as a bear that wintered up in the balsams. Wedding without courting is like victuals without salt. Beauty never made the kettle sing. Never get your horse in a place where you can't turn around. I ain't been in his shoes and I can't gauge his footsteps. It's never too late to mend. Where there's bee, there's honey. What can't be cured must be endured. Don't miss her no more than a cold draft after the door's been shut. He'd buy a load of cordwood to peddle out in hell if you give him till Christmas to pay for it. Sit down and rest yourself. Sitting's cheaper than standing. It looks like I've cut off the last one. Looking like the hind wheels of. Anybody got the ending to that one? No, I don't know what half of those mean. Some you can make sense, and some are particular, I think, to the people. Speak up, speak closer to the mic. No?
Call for community announcements.
Yes, if anyone has community announcements, write them down. There's paper in the back and pens. And bring them to me, before the end of Marcia's talk. Her congregation, her ministerial moment. Yeah, I just skipped right over that. I'm trying to get with the new program order. Let's see, no birthdays and anniversaries. I guess we should sing another song. How about page 49, It Takes a Worried Man. That's in your pink book, page 49. Stand up as you're willing and able. Write down those community moments, announcements.
But I'm always be to sing the worried song. It takes a worried man to sing the worried song. It takes a worried man to sing the worried song. I'm worried now, but I won't be worried long.
Captain McGuire.
Marcia, it's time for our congregational minister, Marcia, to come up and share her words of wisdom to get us through the week.
All right, everybody write down these words of wisdom. Great to see everyone this morning. What a beautiful day.
Yes.
And y'all decided to come here. I appreciate that. That's wonderful. So I hope that you get to go out and play in the dirt or do whatever it is that you really enjoy doing. There's a card on the back table for anyone who would like to sign for Barbara Van Elkinson and Lynn Tippett. I spoke with both of them the other day. Lynn is very excited to be up in Canada with Barbara. Barbara's very excited to have her there. So please, if you know them and would like to say a few words, there's a card right there. There's also, I think the envelope is there with the address.
Yes.
So if you wanted to send your own card, you could write down the address. We've got paper back there. We can do that. But other than that, I hope that you really appreciate the fact that nature is around us and provides for us, and that we are the keepers, that it's our responsibility to be the keepers of the land and everything that's on it. So as you go about your day and enjoy all of the beauty that's out there, just remember the responsibility that we have to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anybody have any community announcements to bring me? I haven't seen any. All right. The pull of our roots can be such a strong force, no matter how far or wide we may roam. Lauren McDuffie. We're going to take 5 minutes of silence. Please use it as you like to pray, meditate, cogitate, and I will ring the chimes when that time is over.
In this, I realized that at a certain point, it goes from 3 verses to 2. So whenever it goes to 2, the first 2 times will go to the first one. Does everybody see where I mean about halfway through? Yeah, whenever it goes to 2, the first 2 times you'll do the first one, and the last time you'll do the second one. Does that make sense? We'll try. Yeah, I hear you. Me too. Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to know just where we want to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to greet all the friends we shan't be ashamed. Turn, be our delight till turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be
a thing as innocent ignorance, and so many of us are guilty of that. As soon as you know that something is a problem, you should fix it. Don't be a dumbass. That's where my heart is. I would never dream of hurting anybody on purpose. Dolly Parton on removing the word Dixie from Dollywood. We take time.
Oh, you want to say a word about this?
Well, yeah, this song is a, a theme song, not really a theme song, but it's a one that was performed very often by a great bluegrass artist by the name of Doc Watson, who grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, actually not too far from where I live too.
And what was interesting is when I went to go, find the words and everything for it, it turns out it's actually related to a song that I know, because I am also a musician, but a really dark, murdery, old English ballad. but this is a little nicer, actually. Although what?
No, I said a little.
A little, okay. Shady Grove, Iowa, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, Iowa, I'm bound to go away. Cheeks as red as a blooming rose, and eyes are the prettiest brown. She's the darling of my heart, sweetest girl in town. Shady Grove, Iowa, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, Iowa, I'm bound to go away.
Wish I had a big fine horse and corn to feed him on, and Shady Grove to stay at home, feed him while I'm gone.
Shady Grove, Iowa,
Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, Iowa, I'm bound to go away.
went to see my Shady Grove, she was standing at the door. Her shoes and stockings in her hand, and her little bare feet on the floor. Shady Grove, Iowa,
Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, Iowa, I'm bound to go away. When I was a little bitty boy, I wanted to borrow a little knife. Now I want my little Shady Grove to say she'll be my wife. Shady Grove, Iowa, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, Iowa, I'm bound to go away. Shady Grove, Iowa, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, Iowa, I'm bound to go away.
Well, I mainly note Clint and Kathy because our children have grown up together in this congregation. Ian's now a young man in college. My daughter's driving. We had COVID and the whole world got crazy, and I don't know, we just went through a black hole and we're on the other side, and the kids are all grown up. But I'm really looking forward to hear what Clint has to say about his childhood and about the left side of the mountain. Welcome, Clint.
say I am currently mostly in my work clothes because that's kind of what Appalachian people do. They go, they preach, they sing, and then they go off to work in the farm or the mill or the mine or whatever.
Yeah.
So, there we go. That's this story begins like all good stories do with church. Many years ago, I was starting to date the woman who would become my wife and my light and my love. Am I laying it on too thick for me? Anyway, Kathy and I had just started dating, and I had spent the night at her house, and she invited me the next morning, Sunday morning, to come to church with her. And I went, church? Really? Okay. What am I going to wear? And so she dug around in her closet and pulled out this skeleton T-shirt. It was a print of a Japanese print of a Japanese skeleton, or a Japanese print of a skeleton. You know what? It was originally done in Japan. So anyway, so I looked at it and I went, what? This? Because my thought of church clothes was, getting in your finest, at least business casual. But she said, yeah, it's going to be fine. It's good. So we went to the Boone Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Boone, North Carolina. And sure enough, it was a very relaxed, very casual atmosphere. And, philosophically, it was great because I wasn't being yelled at. I wasn't being told I was going to hell. I was welcomed and loved and accepted for who I was, which was an amazing feeling. But I say that because there is this perception of people from the Appalachians, particularly the Southern Appalachians, that they're a bunch of kind of moonshine drunk, yahoos racing around in their, modified, almost NASCAR vehicles, flying the Confederate flag and, cussing out anybody who is, darker than eggshell. But in actuality, there are quite a few people amongst the mountain folk who are progressives, who are on the, quote, left side of the mountain. In my personal life, that kind of tendency to shift left actually came from one of my great-great-grandfathers. There is a story, I cannot confirm nor deny this, but during the Civil War, up in the mountains of North Carolina, there were groups of Confederate volunteers called the Home Guard who would go out and basically Shanghai people into joining the Confederate Army and going off to fight. Even though most of those people, A, did not have slaves, B, did not want slaves, C, were too poor to afford anything except like their own subsistence farming. And so my great-great-grandfather, he was one of those people who was being conscripted, quote. And he was chased by a couple of Home Guard people into this little wooded area just off of the backside of Beach Mountain, North Carolina. And a couple of days later, my great-great-grandfather showed back up in public, but the two men who were sent for him did not. Make of that what you will. But, anyway. So there was that. And then, as time went on, and the generations passed, things started kind of happening and turning around. One of the things that my dad was a very complicated man. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But one of the things about him was that he was what he himself termed a yellow dog Democrat. Meaning, if there was a yellow dog running for an office, he would vote for it as long as it had a D by the name. Back in the 1950s and 1960s, that meant something significantly different, especially in the South. But to his credit, he modified his views, he learned, he justified, he rationalized, and he came to accept that the country was changing, that the party was changing, that people were changing, and that there was a whole new dynamic that was going on. And I won't say that he embraced it wholeheartedly, but he was willing to go, okay, all right, I can go and support Barack Obama for president. That's fine. And it was especially difficult because we were living in one of the most Republican counties in North Carolina. So we were a minority amongst ourselves. And of course, with change of philosophies and things like that, there were some Democrats who became Republicans, there were some Republicans who became Democrats. It was all just kind of a big mishmash. But in the larger sense, the Appalachians and the Appalachian people have been more diverse and more complicated than sometimes we realize. Just as an example, our current president, Joe Biden, is actually an Appalachian by birth, having been born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And if you've ever been around there, you know, a lot of coal, a lot of hard-working mountainous people there. But even from the beginning of this country, Appalachians have maintained their own sort of way of looking at the world and their own way of approaching our nation and politics. For example, as far as the 1780s, far back to the 1780s, late 1780s, there was a movement in the western counties of what was then North Carolina to basically secede from that state and form their own state called the state of Franklin. And it actually came to be for a couple of years. John Sevier was the governor. He was a Revolutionary War hero, fought at the Battle of Kings Mountain. And eventually, they had this kind of breakaway state, kind of petitioned Congress and talked to them, gave their grievances about representation, and eventually the state was dissolved, but then reformed with expanded territory as the state of Tennessee. Yeah. So, but that kind of willingness to sort of go off on their own way was not the last time that would happen. During the Civil War, many mountain communities, I mentioned my great-great-grandfather a couple of minutes ago, but there were many who were like him who did not want to go off and fight in the Civil War. Some of them were just not willing to fight at all, and because of economic necessity. But also there were those who had a conscience and did not want to fight on the Confederate side for a bunch of landowners in the Piedmont and the coastal plains who were harnessing unpaid human labor, or slaves, as we'll say, to finance their homes and their livelihoods. And it got so intense in some areas that there was talk of secession from the states to remain in the Union. And if you know your history, you know that many western counties in Virginia ended up seceding from Virginia to become a Union state. West Virginia, of course. And that's that kind of spirit of not taking it continued on through the years. During the early 20th century, there were movements to unionize people, especially in places like the coal mines of West Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding areas. And that movement helped to spur even more unionization throughout the United States during the 20s and 30s. And one of the most important quite frankly, one of the most important events was the Battle of Blair Mountain, which took place in 1921. There was a man by the name of Bill Blizzard, who was a coal worker in Logan County, West Virginia, and he wanted to unionize the workers in the coal mines there in that county. But the coal owners, they were dead set against this, and they sent in private security detective agencies. And this is not Columbo or Magnum PI we're talking about. These were like real hard men with real hard weapons to go and try to stop this. But those detective men were met by the workers, who armed themselves and came to battle them face to face. And for a period of 5 days during late August and early September of 1921, they fought over the right to unionize. And Mother Jones was also part of the group that was fighting for the workers. It ended when the governor of West Virginia called in the Air National Guard to actually bring in planes and drop bombs on the workers. Over 1,000, I believe it was over 1,000 people were killed in that conflagration. And it ended up being a defeat for the people that day, but that action inspired others to seek better economic conditions and better working conditions, life conditions, not having to pay company scrip for the necessities of life. And one other offshoot of that became the Highlander Folk School, founded in Tennessee in 1932. It was started up as a way to develop nonviolent resistance to corporate bosses. But as time went on, it also found a new mission, particularly after World War II, when it was brought in, it brought in people to show them how to fight for their civil rights. Some of the people who were there were, of course, Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, Rosa Parks. She almost directly went from the Highlander School back down to back to Montgomery, in 1955, and of course, the boycott happened because of her bravery. And sadly, the Highlander School was closed in 1961 after a smear campaign happened where Georgia and Tennessee officials tried to tie Dr. King, who was a great supporter of it and worked very closely with the Highlander School, to a person that they said was the leader of the Georgia Communist Party. Ooh. So Tennessee was able to close it down, but it did end up opening up again under a different name and is still working today for economic justice and civil rights. That's a good thing for sure. Now, again, like most, as Cindy Lou said earlier with one of her quotes, there have been waves of settlers in the mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. You had Native Americans, particularly Cherokee. You had the Scots-Irish. You had the Germans, the Poles, and in more recent decades, there have actually been an influx of people from other nations who are looking for a place to live. Of course, there's been a new Hispanic influence in the mountains as well, but also one of the peoples that found themselves in North Carolina, not far from where I live, were the Hmong people from Laos, who came there after the Vietnam War. The mountains of North Carolina reminded them of the mountains there in Southeast Asia, where they were from. And they were welcomed by the people of Marion, North Carolina, and have established a presence there ever since. And today, the progressive spirit continues to live as local people fight not only for economic justice and civil justice, but also for environmental justice as well. There, of course, has been very large controversies regarding the coal mining industry and some of the tactics that they have used in order to extract coal from the mountains, which includes strip mining, which is basically just digging up the ground and not caring what happens to anything that lives there, and mountaintop removal, which is where they almost literally explode the top of a mountain to get to the coal. And those techniques have been very strongly opposed by the people of the mountains who have lived there. So today, you can find progressivism in the mountains. It's not that hard to find either. I mean, you can go to places like Boone. Asheville is another incredible city of diverse and very accepting people. And I mean, it's an amazing thing, and you should take it all into stride. Now, and I will mention also another quote, the Dolly Parton quote, just so you know the origin of that. Back when she founded her theme park, Dollywood, there was a show that was done. It was kind of like a medieval times sort of thing, where you had, where they pass out hats to people, and you'd be either northern or southern. Union or Confederate, blue or gray. And, you would sit in and they would do a show and you would try to cheer for your particular region of the country. They serve all the, they serve traditional Southern foods and they would play Dixie, among other tunes. But then in 2000, the reason they took it out was because of George Floyd. When he was murdered in 2020, there was some focus put on this show, which I cannot remember the name of it now, Dolly could have, dodged it, or, she could have doubled down and said, well, that's our heritage and blah, blah, blah. But instead, she took the notion to stand up and say, you know what? This is wrong. I made a mistake, we made a mistake, we're going to stop this and we're going to fix it. And from what I understand, the show now is more of a Family Feud kind of thing, like Hatfields and McCoys, which I don't know if that's better, but it's a shift. It's a shift. So anyway, this is not to say that the mountains of North Carolina are the next Berkeley, California. There are, of course, plenty of people who still, who still wave the flag, the stars and bars, and throw up, flags for their particular presidential candidate, and they'll say really bad jokes and things like that, and even go to church on Sundays and hand snakes. But there are a lot of people out there who are incredibly nice people, even those that you don't agree with. Can be incredibly nice people. So it's always, when in doubt, go with humanity, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave you now here with a quick quote. This is from a song called I Am Appalachia. And when they lay my body in the green, green grass, I will whisper quiet secrets to animals that pass. Sorry, I can't read my own writing. But the times I know I swore I was never coming back, but I lied. I am Appalachia. Thank you all. Good evening.
That was great, thank you. I also just wanted to say, listening to that reminded me that our founder, Lanier Clance, was from the Appalachian Mountains, and he talked about it often.
Simply, I have to say, Lanier wasn't. He was from northern Florida. Polly, his wife, and her family were from Appalachia.
Thank you for correcting me. He talked about spending a lot of time up there. Yeah. So we've recently switched our celebration of life order around, and I'm going to say the closing words before we sing our song, which I'm glad that we've gone back to that, because I think it's awkward to sit down again after you sing. I want to sing and then move up and leave. So I want to remind everybody to take their cushions and take them to the back of the room and put them in the green buckets. And I'll share one more quote, "Storytelling and Appalachian culture, it runs deep. You have these communities and families that for a long time were isolated, and if you did have time off after working to keep everything going, you'd sit around and just yak, just talk and tell tall tales and flat out lies and try to one-up the guy who just told the story, Tyler Childers." Our closing song is page 89, "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" Please stand as you're willing and able, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday and a great week.
Fought for freedom, gave their lives or went to jail. Let us follow in their footsteps. Let us take their freedom place. Will the circle be unbroken? Will it stand throughout the land? Yes, we'll carry on for freedom, hand in hand. All the ones who fought before us, we will honor every name. But the struggle isn't over. Now we all must do the same. Will the circle be unbroken? Will it stand throughout the land? Yes, we'll carry on for freedom, hand in hand, hand in hand. There are those who would divide us, who would keep us apart, but we'll keep the bond between us, and we'll give each other hearts. Will the circle be unbroken? Will it stand throughout the land? Yes, we'll carry on for freedom, hand in hand, hand in hand. There's a tide that binds all people